Hello and welcome to the Titus Timeout podcast. I'm Jenny Abney-Civey, and today I'm going to talk about how sound adds. Hopefully you remember from the previous sound videos that sound is measured in decibels against a frequency. So you may say that a sound was 65 dB at 63 hertz. For our product, we group the frequencies into octave bands that are centered around 63 hertz, 125, 250, 500, 1000, 2000, 4000, and 8000 hertz. So these correspond to octave bands 1 through 8. So let me make a little bit of room here. Now first you need to know that you need to add sound by octave band. So you can't add your 63 hertz decibel to your 8000 hertz decibel and have anything meaningful come out of it. So I'm going to assume that we're adding sound in a single octave band. It doesn't really matter which one for our example. But what happens if you have a sound source that's 80 dB and another one that is 74 dB? What does that sound like? Is that 154 dB sound and you put those two together? I mean, that would be horrible. That is not the way sound adds. Adding sound is a log function, but instead of getting into the math on it, let me pull up a chart from our catalog. It's on page B85 of the current catalog. And let's look at how we add sound. Put that over there. Okay, so now you take the difference between your two sound sources, 80 minus 74 equals 6 dB. You go find 6 on our chart across the bottom here and draw a line up to the curve and then over to the correction, which is 1. So now you add the correction to the higher of the two sound sources. So 80 plus 1 is 81 dB. So if you had an 80 dB sound source and a 74 dB sound source in the same place, that area would sound like 81 dB in whichever octave band we're talking about here. Now a couple of things to note. One is that if your two sound sources are more than 10 dB apart, you can see that the curve trails off to 0. So as long as they're more than 10 dB apart, you hear the louder sound source. This is why when we run a lab test, we make sure that the sound of the unit being tested is more than 10 dB louder than the background sound in the room. That way we know the sound we're measuring is the sound of the unit and we're not getting any additional sounds from the room. On the opposite end, you can see if the difference between your two sound sources is 0 or they sound the same, then you add 3 dB. So this basically tells you that if you have two of the same sound source within hearing range, it'll sound 3 dB louder than a single source. So that's how sound adds. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and thanks for taking the time out with us.